From the New York Times, it's The Headlines. I'm Tracy Mumford. Today's Wednesday, February 12th. Here's what we're covering.
We're going to be signing a very important deal today. It's Doge, and I'm going to ask Elon to tell you a little bit about it.
In the Oval Office yesterday, President Trump announced a new executive order expanding Elon Musk's mandate to overhaul the federal government. It calls for, quote, large-scale cuts at federal agencies and says that Musk's so-called Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, will need to sign off on most new hires going forward.
If your taxpayer dollars are not spent in a sensible and frugal manner, then that's not okay.
For about 30 minutes, Trump had Musk, who was standing next to him wearing a black autographed MAGA hat, take the floor and talk to reporters. It's the first time that Musk has answered questions since he started his overhaul, and he defended the slash and burn campaign that he's been carrying out against federal agencies.
We have this unelected, fourth unconstitutional branch of government, which is the bureaucracy, which has, in a lot of ways, currently more power than any elected representative.
Musk said federal workers have far too much power over Americans' lives. Though, as a special government employee himself, Musk has been allowed to operate nearly unchecked. Musk also claimed, without giving any proof, that he'd found widespread corruption in the government, which reporters pressed him about.
Yeah. And how can we make sure that all the statements that you said were correct, so we can trust what you say?
Well, first of all, some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000.
Over the course of the press conference, Musk also dodged questions about his potential conflicts of interest, given the billions of dollars in contracts his companies have with the government and the multiple federal investigations they're facing. Meanwhile,
what they're doing in the executive branch, I've been asked so many times, aren't you uncomfortable with this? No, I'm not, because
House Speaker Mike Johnson said he, quote, wholeheartedly agrees that the Trump administration can keep making cuts to federal spending, taking a position that is at odds with the Constitution. The Constitution says Congress decides how federal money should be spent, and the executive branch is supposed to carry that out. Instead, the Trump administration has been withholding funds that Congress signed off on in a direct challenge to the separation of powers. Johnson still praised the effort, framing it as a forensic audit. Yesterday, the Trump administration struck a deal with the Kremlin to release an American prisoner, Mark Fogel.
I feel like the luckiest man on earth right now.
Fogel was working as a teacher in Russia when he was arrested in 2021 on charges of bringing medical marijuana into the country. He was sentenced to over a decade in prison.
I want you to know that I am not a hero in this at all. President Trump is a hero.
He was released after Trump's special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, flew to Russia personally on his own jet for a meeting. It was the first time a senior U.S. official has been to the country since before Russia invaded Ukraine, and Witkoff flew back with Fogel. Hours later, Trump hosted Fogel at the White House.
And we appreciate President Putin's what he did. He was able to pull it off for you, right?
We don't know the contours of this deal. Specifically, we don't know what, if anything, the U.S. gave up in order to get Mark Fogel released. But it's already clear this is a win in its own way, both for Trump and for Putin.
Anton Troyanovsky covers Russia for The Times.
You know, Trump got that photo op in the White House with this released American. Putin got this major step toward establishing a closer relationship with Trump. And it's really important for Putin to get on Trump's good side and stay there because he sees the United States as the biggest obstacle to his ability to win the war in Ukraine. And in many ways, that's true. The U.S. is by far Ukraine's most important ally, providing a huge amount of weaponry and financial assistance. Trump has already said that he thinks the U.S. has been making a mistake in providing all that assistance, that the war needs to end. And so Putin clearly sees a massive opportunity here that he's trying to capitalize on.
President Trump himself said that the prisoner deal could be a first step toward ending the war in Ukraine and said more details would be announced today. U.S. officials say another American will also be released, but they did not say who.
ההחלטה שהעברתי בקבינט פה אחד היא זאת.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is promising, quote, intense fighting in Gaza if Hamas does not go through with a plan to release more hostages this weekend. He's accused Hamas of violating the ceasefire deal by postponing hostage releases. Hamas has accused Israel of violating the agreement by blocking humanitarian aid and firing on civilians. The ceasefire has been in place for nearly a month. It's supposed to continue for several more weeks, with the possibility to extend it. In Monterey County, California last month,
there is a fire at the Vista Energy facility there.
A battery plant caught fire. It only got a fraction of the coverage of the wildfires that were happening in Los Angeles at the same time, but it burned for days, emitting thick plumes of smoke.
We've been told to leave, and I don't mind doing that because I don't feel safe this close to this facility.
The plant was filled with lithium-ion batteries, which contain heavy metals that can cause lung damage or neurological problems when inhaled. Residents nearby reported a metallic taste in the air. They said they got headaches, sore throats, bloody noses. One man who lived 25 miles from the fire told The Times it felt like the air was burning his lungs. Now people in the area are concerned about long-term health effects and the impact on local agriculture. The area is known for growing strawberries and other produce. After the blaze, a state agency tested the soil for miles around the plant and found elevated levels of the heavy metals found in lithium batteries. The fire has also raised questions about the safety of California's clean energy efforts. The state relies on battery plants, like the one that burned, to store electricity gathered during the day and release it to the grid at night. But lithium-ion battery fires are notoriously hard to put out, since they can't be extinguished with water. Current best practice is just to let them burn. One county supervisor told The Times, quote, "We are right now in a place where government does not have the knowledge to regulate this technology, and industry does not have the know-how to control it." And finally, this year's nominees for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame were announced this morning. There's a mix of eras and genres, everybody from Joe Cocker to Billy Idol to Oasis, Phish, and Outkast. The Hall of Fame has been facing pressure in recent years for how few women it's recognized. And this year's list likely won't change that. Only 2 women are nominated, Cyndi Lauper and the Queen of the High Note, Mariah Carey. The person maybe most excited to see his name, though, is 83-year-old Chubby Checker. His 1960s cover of The Twist is one of the biggest hits in Billboard singles history. Checker has been pushing for this for years. He even took out an ad over 20 years ago in Billboard magazine, calling on the Hall of Fame, and also boldly on the group behind the Nobel Prizes, to recognize him for his work. He wrote, "I want my flowers while I'm alive. I can't smell them when I'm dead." The Hall of Fame will announce which of the nominees make the cut in April. In the meantime, a quick update on another award that many of you had strong feelings about. I told you earlier this week that golden retrievers have never won the top award at the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show. And
for Best in Show,
they still haven't.
I choose the giant schnauzer.
Oh, Monty! He did it!
Monty the giant schnauzer won last night. His handler said he's going to celebrate by doing his favorite thing, destroying some soccer balls. Those are the headlines. Today on The Daily, Times Supreme Court reporter Adam Liptak walks through how the Trump administration is testing the bounds of its power. That's next in the New York Times audio app, or you can listen wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Tracy Mumford. We'll be back tomorrow.